we're going to look at the work of the cross versus the way of the cross. And I call the work of the cross also the work at the cross, all right? And there was a time in San Antonio many years ago that all of a sudden a few ministers began to come at me teaching on the cross. And what was said was that I hid the cross in my teaching. And what they were talking about was the old rugged cross. And we sat down with one of them and said, that's all I teach is the cross. And they said, no, you're not teaching the old rugged cross. In other words, what happened at the cross. So anyway, I wanted to kind of give you that preliminary. Anyway, it says when we talk of the cross of Christ, the scriptures are talking about two different things, the work of the cross versus the way of the cross. Now, I'm going to say something here that the work of the cross is God's offering to us, all right? The way of the cross is our offering to God, all right? So just remember that as we read. Over the years, I've been accused by certain ministers of not teaching the true work of the cross offered at Calvary. This is because most of my teaching is about the walk of the cross or the crucified life, Christ's work being done in us. By the way, this is because most of Jesus' teaching and the letters in the New Testament are to the churches about the walk of the cross in us and what is accomplished by the Holy Spirit doing the work of the cross in us. That's what most of the scriptures are about. That's what I teach on. And I mean, it's kind of funny. That's my whole teaching, and then I'm told, well, you really kind of hide the cross because you really don't focus on the cross. And you think, okay. This is his resurrection life. That's the way of the cross. This is his resurrection life made manifest in us. Most of the teaching of the elementary teachings of the Christ spoken of in the book of Hebrews is about the work of the cross. Paul said we need to leave these elementary teachings of the Christ and move on to maturity, although they are very important to understand. So it's very important to understand that the work of the cross, if we didn't have it, there would be no point in having the way of the cross, because the work of the cross is the foundation of everything that God did for us, all right? So the work of the cross is what God is offering to us. The way of the cross is what we're offering back to God. This is the covenant of God offered to us. However, Christ is also doing this work. He's the one doing the work of the cross in us if we're willing to die to our old nature. So I kind of broke down a few things here in the few minutes we've got. But the work of the cross, when we talk of the work of the cross, we're talking of the cross's work being done by Jesus Christ for us, all right? So it's a work at the cross or the work of the cross, all right? So this is God's working for us, mankind. Without the work of the cross, there is no grace for mankind, because the cross, God sending his son to die for us, is the grace of God for mankind. Now, the way of the cross, when we speak of the way of the cross, we're speaking of Christ's work for the cross in us, the transforming work of the cross changing us, the recipient of his grace that was purchased at the old rugged cross. All right, so let's look at a few scriptures here, what we can fit in. So in Mark 8:34, it said, he summoned the crowd with his disciples and said to them, if anyone wishes to come after me, that's a pretty broad statement. Anybody wants to come, he must deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever wishes to save his life is going to lose it. And whoever loses his life for my sake and the gospel's will save it. For what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and forfeit his soul? And verse 37, for what will a man give in exchange for his soul. And as I've shared either last week or the week before, there is something, see, we're taught, well, you have nothing to give. God has everything to give. But, well, if you understand covenant, you understand that you have to give something, and you do give something. It's your life. That's what you give in exchange for your soul. So God gave his life in exchange for your soul, and now you have to give your life. He gave his life, his side of the covenant. We have to give our life, our side of the covenant. So for whoever is ashamed of me and my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, the Son of Man will also be ashamed of him when he comes in the glory of his Father. Now let's go down to Matthew 10:38. And he who does not take his cross and follow after me is not worthy of me. Now, so there's a question we have to ask. So he says, the one that doesn't take up his cross and follow after him is not worthy. All right, question. If a man is not worthy of him, does he receive him? That's what, so we are receiving him as we die to ourselves and give up our life. All right. So he who has found his life, that's the old nature, is going to lose it. And who has lost his life, that's for Christ's sake. All right. Now notice these next three words. These are so important. For my sake. For my sake. Say those three words. For my sake. Okay. He says, if you lose your life for my sake, you will find it, all right? This is very important, and I wanted to point this out, and this is the most important thing I'll point out today. So this is for Christ's sake, what we give back to God. All right, Romans 8:36. Okay, I don't have this one up there. I'm sorry, this one came later. But this is in Romans 8:36. Just as it is written, for your sake, there it is again, all right? We are being put to death all day long. We were considered as sheep to be slaughtered. So twice here we're told it's for his sake, all right? Luke 14:26. If anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, even his own life, all right? Now, when we think about, you got to hate, why would he say that? That means in contrast to him. You have to love him more than you love all of these others. All right? He cannot be my disciple. Now, whoever does not carry his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. So it's not offered to people who will not give up their old life. And so, anyway, I'm going to read one more here. The message of the cross, all right? In 1 Corinthians 1:17, it says, for Christ did not send me to baptize, but to preach the gospel, all right? Not in cleverness of speech. See, anytime the gospel is taught in cleverness of speech, it'll actually say it makes the cross void. Because, in other words, if we teach in cleverness of speech, we're actually avoiding the cross, all right? So that the cross of God would not be made void. For the word of the cross is foolishness. Now, just remember this. The word of the cross, in other words, the gospel, is foolishness. In other words, God takes the foolish things of the world and makes them the most important things. And when you read Jesus' teachings, which are the gospel, you will realize that it's foolishness to the world. They go, you want me to bless those that curse me? You got to be kidding. You want me to be patient with the impatient? You got to be kidding. You want me to be merciful to people who are unmerciful? You got to be kidding. But that is the gospel according to Jesus Christ. And he says in verse 21, For since in the wisdom of God, the world through its wisdom did not come to know God, God was well pleased, listen to this, through the foolishness of the message preached to save those who believe. All right.